We are back. And earlier we were talking about renters, and that with the current economy, you're seeing more people that are on your rental list.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people know that you can use a realtor to being a renter.
Yeah, now a lot of people don't think about that. They think, well, realtors just want to buy or sell, right? That they're not a resource for that. But some of the things that I at least know from experience and working with people, especially recently, is that, so much of this information, apartments.com, Zillow, all of those have portals where they deal with rentals, and, you kind of have this automated process where you're sitting at home and you're thinking, well, I might need to rent a place or get a new place or whatever. And so you start scrolling and you just start clicking on stuff. And the next thing you know, you're being hit with, well, give us your financial information, fill out this application. There's an application
Before you even
fee.
see the place?
Before you see the place, in some cases.
That's weird.
And it's like, if I was the person doing this, I'm not necessarily going to answer all these questions until I even see, is your place what I'm looking for?
Yeah.
I should be able to tour it for it, right?
Yeah.
So,
because then you're just putting all of your information out there to a house that may not even exist.
And you don't even know who that person is that's receiving it. Like, it's not the company Zillow or apartments.com getting that information. It's whoever has set up this listing.
Mm-hmm.
So my disclaimer warning is that this isn't to talk about any particular company or anything like that, even though you know probably how I feel about that one. But the reality is that I have to verify my information. I can't just put random contact information in on a listing and not know that that information is the actual party that I'm dealing with, right? And so if there's that kind of oversight, protection process in that, then in theory, I would like to say that other websites that are allowing for these platforms to be used to get people's information. If I'm collecting people's social security number, I had to be verified in order to have that in my office.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't deal with people's social security numbers.
So do you think that this is a trend from, like, let's use New York, for example, because I get these realtors that go in and they're renting or looking at rentals and they're bringing their clients through. So I am assuming, as like a small town girl from Ohio, that if you go to find a rental in New York, you're using a realtor. Do you think that mentality, because Zillow is nationwide, has then trickled down to Ohio, where you don't technically need a realtor to see rental units?
Well, and that's just it. So anybody who owns a property can rent, sell, lease, or do any of that. You don't have to use a realtor, right? You can you can conduct business the way that you want to. My rationale for saying using the professionals is to give that credibility, verify information, and make sure that you are not walking into a situation. So we know that anybody can put something up online.
Yeah.
And it could be fake. It could be AI generated picture even. It may not actually be what the house looks like. And more importantly, that with all the deed scams and all the stuff that's gone on, that could be not even the person that you are meeting at the property is legitimately the owner of that property. I had a property, and this has been a number of years back. I was the realtor involved, had the listing, we put it up there, and somebody off of Craigslist copied my listing, put it up fraudulently on Craigslist, and then was meeting people at the property to collect money.
What?
As if they were the owner and renting it. The only reason why I found this out, because part of what my due diligence is, or my listings, is that I'm doing drive-bys and I'm checking on properties and I'm making sure that everything is as it's supposed to be. And when I had gone by on this one particular day, the neighbor came over and said, oh, well, there was a group of people over there. And I'm like, wait a minute. Nobody was scheduled for a showing. So then I contacted and talked with my seller, and he's like, no, I didn't have anybody over. What's going on? And so a little digging, right? A little due diligence at that point, found the fraudulent listing, contacted the sheriff's office, had them come out immediately. We had to post notices on the property stating that this property was not being rented. It was not as listed on Craigslist, that it is legitimately for sale. The realtor involved is me, and that nobody should be there without a realtor representation, verified, knowing that you're working with a professional. So here's what happens is that people are so anxious. I really want to find a house in this neighborhood or at this price point, and they get the blinders on. And then they see something pop up and they're like, oh, well, I can get by there. Hey, so they call the number or they text the number or whatever, right? And they're like, I'm interested in your house. And so they get an answer. You don't know who that person is.
Yeah.
Has there any verified access with any of that? No. But you call the number because that's the number that's on there.
Yeah.
Or that's the email that's on there. So you contact them. As an individual person, you're not really set up or equipped or normally thinking about, well, I need to see, is this actually the owner's name? Is this actually who has the property registered in their name? Is this legitimately phone number that's going to this company or any of that, right?
Yeah.
And so people were blindly showing up. And what they were doing is because it was so undervalued price, like it was such a great deal for that size of a home, that they were bringing their cashier's checks for a deposit because they wanted their application accepted that day. That's the money scam. You can't track the money order.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Yeah.
You've lost your money. You don't know that person unless you can give an actual, I took a photo of their ID and this is the person who was there. Good luck getting a description to the officer when they show up.
Yeah.
And you figure out 3 weeks later that you don't get the home.
Yeah.
Right? So people are kind of, and hey, it's the season where people are looking for the easiest money they can, and the scams are always out there.
Yeah.
We, as the real estate professionals, try to give that accountability and legitimacy to a deal, right? And say, we want to make sure that our consumers are protected, that our business is protected, and that we don't have this kind of stuff going on. Now, I couldn't prevent somebody from grabbing the photos and copying my listing. If I could track them down, believe me, I'd have had them hanging somewhere by their feet, not anybody else. But you know, but the thing is that it led to somebody else being able to do all of these other things. So when I take that information and that particular situation that I know firsthand, I'm like, I would never want to be a renter who thinks that I have to show up with a money order in order to get my application accepted. And I'm doing that without, I haven't even seen the property yet.
Yeah.
And I don't know who I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
So when somebody tells me I have to fill out this financial application before I can even tour the home or see the property, I'm like, I'm not giving you all that information because I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
And I don't know what you're going to do with it. And I don't know that I'm going to like the house.
Yeah.
After I see the house, then I will fill out an application. I will do it.
Yeah.
But that's my other
that makes
pet peeve.
sense.
Because I do property management for people, and you see that they do these application fees. Well, if the first one doesn't go through, you paid an application fee there. But now you're looking at a different property represented by somebody else, and now you have to do another application fee?
Yeah.
Like at $50, $65, I've seen some application fees as high as $75, and it's like...
And is that to run like the background check? Or
they say,
like a processing fee?
They say, right?
Yeah.
I don't know really does it really cost that much? No, because I'm a property manager and it didn't cost me that much.
Yeah.
But the reality is if I collect an application fee from somebody, we're going to work through the properties until we get to the right one. They don't have to give me an application fee for every property we go see.
Yeah.
There's a huge difference. And I sit back and I'm like, are people really doing this?
I would never apply for a property just to see it because the pictures look so different.
Yes.
Then what if the bedrooms are too small? Or what if it's like a total turd?
Well, and
with some paint on it.
They only show you the good stuff in the pictures, and you walk in and you see the other half, and it's like, I can't live with that.
Yeah.
So in the cases where, and here's the thing, there's not a lot of money that you're making if you are working with somebody who wants to rent, right? So typically, if I have an investor and they're going to rent their house, we've worked out an agreement. I'm going to get compensated by the investor normally. Maybe now with the way things have changed and, you know, now the investor's going to pay for his part and maybe the renter is going to pay a portion of that. It's a very nominal number. In the real world, if you're working with commercial leases, it's a whole lot of money because the rates are a lot higher. and you have a lot more that's involved with it. And then you go for the length of the term of the lease.
Yeah.
So I get a 3-year lease in a commercial deal. That could be as equal to my commission on a house that I've sold for $300,000.
Yeah.
So $300,000. And that's just the reality of it. So the reason why a lot of realtors don't do rentals, don't do anything with it, they don't list them, they don't show them, they're not going to get involved, is simply because the time and effort that it takes to work that aren't necessarily going to equal the $100 or the $200 that they're going to get as a fee, right?
Yeah.
So it's a very nominal fee. But the other side of that is that I wouldn't want any of my clients to be going through that process and not feel like they had some representation. So even if it's a nominal amount that I'm going to earn off of it, I don't do my business just because of a nominal amount. I do my business because it's the service I provide.
Yeah.
And so I want my clients to feel like, okay, I will reach out, I will set up these showings so that we can go see 5 in a day if we've got the time, right?
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I'm a professional, and it was a struggle to set this up for somebody. It'd be like half the time people didn't even respond. It'd be like, is this still available? You still have the listing up. Does that mean it's available? Are you still taking applications? Me even saying, I'm a realtor working with my client who wants to see this property. Well, we need financial information. Well, we're not filling out financial information. Well, you need your information, and I'm not filling out my information for a property I'm not living in.
Right.
Like, where is the disconnect in this information, right? And so there's all of this, and I am like, holy crap. For us to tour, let's say we toured 25 homes, I had made probably 75 phone calls, emails or contacts, texting or whatever. So my client and I, we would see, you know, for every one that we would see, I've had to contact 3, right?
Yeah.
And it's just really crazy to think that people are blindly going out there and going through this process and not realizing maybe the position that they are being put in. Mm-hmm. Maybe they don't realize, if they're a first-time renter, they don't realize having their credit information out there and being pulled by multiple people, how that could affect them.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't realize that that's really something they should be concerned with. But as the realtor and a professional, you know, there was pushback. There were a number of people who would say to me, well, why are you showing this? Or why are you involved? And it's like, because I'm looking out for the best interest of my client, right?
Yeah.
Like, why is there a problem that I'm here? First of all, is that a problem?
Well, I think for you it works because that renter could turn into a buyer.
For sure.
Whether they're buying that rental home that they get into or something different when their financial situation changes and they're able to buy.
Well, and I know my youngest son, when he was going to move out of the house the first time, you know, he was going to move in with his buddies and they were going to rent, So as a mom, I know the conversations I had with my son. And I'm like, renting an apartment is probably not the best idea for you.
Yeah.
There's going to be so many rules. You think it was hard living in my house?
Yeah.
Let's talk about a landlord and
Yeah.
4 guys coming in. And they're going to say, like, no.
Yeah.
They're going to be checking on all this stuff. They're going to be doing all these things. We have to check the leases. Fast forward, you know, they grow up, they do their thing, think about houses or whatever. But here's the thing. If it's an individual who's renting or doing their home themselves, right? They don't have to have a realtor. They can do it. But who has written that contract that they're going to present as the lease? Who knows if that lease is fair housing supplied? You know, if it violates fair housing?
So let's talk about fair housing. So, like, what have you seen people say or heard them say when you were out looking at places with people where you were like, I can't believe they said that?
Yeah, it's really, and again, a personal individual, right, may not have some of the requirements that I certainly fall under as a licensed realtor, right? But people in general should know that you can't discriminate.
Yeah.
Right? That there is reasons why there are landlord tenant protection acts out there. But oh my word, there's so many things that would be said. You know, even when I would be making the calls to try to set up the showings, they would want to know, like, who is this person? If I identified them as a male or female, well, are they married? Marital status is protected.
Yeah.
So does it matter who it is that I'm showing? Or do you just want to know? First of all, I would think from the consumer who's doing it themselves, getting contacted by every Joe Blow, right? And
Yeah.
you don't know them. They're contacting you and you're going to meet them and you don't know. I know the dangers I have to watch for, but you are putting yourself in that position. But now you have a professional who's saying, I'm bringing a client, I'm da-da-da-da-da. That should have been their first level of, hey, we got somebody really that I could work with because I've got a professional involved in this.
Yeah.
And instead of getting that pushback. But when they make a comment, they want to know about marital status. They want to know if there are any kids in the family. It's like the hair on the back of my neck is standing up at this point. Like,
Yeah.
there's things you can't really ask. And if they go as far as wanting to know about, well, where do they get their income from? I'm sorry, but that's not necessarily your right to know.
Yeah.
We certainly are not at that stage if we haven't even gotten through to see the house.
Right.
Why are you asking this stuff?
Yeah, that's crazy.
So is it an official violation? There's probably some things that could be said yay or nay. The fact of the matter is that would not be practice that I would do, right? And I know that I have these standards that I have to uphold. And so I'm going to protect my client. Not only is it that, hey, I may be working with somebody who's coming from an abusive situation, who needs protection in a way that they're just not going to give their name out at this point.
Yeah.
Why would that be a concern that, oh, well, I don't know that I want to show the property? Well, then good luck. Peace out, because I'm not going to cave to affect and potentially damage my client. I'm certainly going to make sure that I'm protecting them.
Yeah.
But I deal with all kinds of situations. I have people who have come from an abusive background who've had to find a place. And they cannot let that information go out to the person that they may be leaving.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why we have shelters, and that's why we have protective language that can make sure that that's not out there and available. There are reasons why you just want to know that your best interests are being looked out. So let's go back to the terms of the lease. So, hey, I could have AI write a lease for me. I could go get a lease out of the local convenience store, probably, or certainly from the office supply
Like Staples,
store.
yeah. I've seen them there.
And it's like, who's vetted the language that's in that, right? And so if you were my client looking, I know that there are some things that we probably wouldn't agree to. If I have another client who's maybe not wanting to have like the landlord 24/7 can show up at any time, and because they own the house, they have
who would
rights,
want that?
right? And it's like, no, wait a minute. There's protocol here, and I do know Landlord-Tenant Act, and so you have to give advance notice, and it needs to be within required hours, and unless there's an emergency, then that's a different story. But you cannot just randomly show up. And I'll tell you, renters are happening now because of the price points, because of student debt, because of property taxes, for all the reasons, right? That people are maybe not able to buy, that they are looking at, I need to rent. And I had somebody who contacted me. They were in a lease. They were not happy. They were having issues. And they had a sewage backup in their bathroom. That meant sewage, feces.
In the shower? Ew.
Not from the shower.
Oh,
from
in the floor?
Toilet, up through the floor, under the toilet. And this particular, it was being managed by the property manager, which, that's a whole nother debate. Is it an actual real estate person who has a license? Because if I am getting paid and I have a real estate license, I have my license on the line for the activities that are taking place.
But you have people that rent too because they don't want to deal with all of those
Correct.
Maintenance issues.
Correct. Absolutely.
So they choose to be renters.
And you can be a property manager of your own property and not have a real estate license. So those are different, like you fall under different criteria. You're not expected to do all the things and know all the things that I do. Mm-hmm. However, if you are a private individual with a home or house, apartment, whatever, if you are renting it and you are paying somebody to manage it, if they are getting paid to manage your property, they are supposed to be licensed. This is the biggest violation we have in our area.
Oh.
I don't want to I have a house and I invest and it's just my passive income, retirement, whatever, but I don't want to take care of the maintenance calls. I don't want to do this. So I'll pay you to take care of it, Jim, and you just let me know. Well, Jim isn't licensed. He's in violation. He cannot earn for property management and not have a real estate license.
I didn't know that.
It is the biggest thing that people don't realize.
Yeah.
And there are companies that get away with it. Now, as a company, if you have an employee, the employee is getting paid, but there's workarounds, right?
Yeah, like the owner would be licensed.
Yes. So all of that is being said to say what? Where was I going with that? So they had this sewage backup, right? And their property manager was like 3 weeks later, still not been resolved.
Mm-hmm.
And they're coming to me and they're like, well, what do we do? And I'm like, first of all, your rent needs to be notified that you're not going to pay your rent because the problem hasn't been corrected. This is a safety, structure, and habitability issue. Like, you have to be able to have a working bathroom in order for that to be habitable.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, they gave us the key for the unit across the way that we could go to the bathroom there. I'm like, what?
No.
Like, how is that even possible?
Yeah.
And
in the middle of the night, you're going to go across the hall?
Did they give you that unit to rent and just go switch over there? No, they just said we could use it for the bathroom. And I'm like, and you still have water in your bathroom on the floor? Yeah, we've been telling them that this needs to, and I am like, my mind hurts so bad. Like, there was so many violations. And I'm like, who is this person? Do they have a real estate license? All
at
the
that
things
point,
you
I
need
would
to
say
do.
you need to escrow your rent in whatever municipal
Absolutely.
court it's
Correct.
in. And a lot of people don't know about that either.
Yes.
And I've told a couple people, like, yeah, just go down to escrow it. You still have to pay it.
You still have to
into
pay
the
it.
escrow account, or they can, evict you or whatever.
Correct.
But then they don't get access to those funds until those situations have been cleared up.
And you see those I-7 reports where they go and they show the black mold on the house. This is how that happens, is that you don't resolve the problem.
Well, I
when it's
remember
needed.
it was a couple years ago, there was like a whole building in the west side of Dayton that they were down there filming, and it was uninhabitable, and they were all like standing out on the street, and then the Red Cross had to come in. Yeah, I remember all of that. And then apparently there was like standing sewage in the basement.
Yeah. And you get sick from that. I mean, you physically can be affected by that. And this couple also had a small child in the home. And I am like, for so many reasons, really, like, I don't want anybody to be put into a situation that should be easily to resolve, right?
Yeah.
Or that there is at least recourse, or there are options. Fortunately, it came to a pass, and it was not going to work out. If the property manager did something, it was so far after the fact, it's kind of like, peace out. I'm giving you my notice.
Yeah.
I'm out of here.
Yeah.
There's recourses, but again, the language that's on those leases really matters, because are they responsible for taking care of this, or do they have a lease where they're like, nope, you're renting it, it's all your responsibility. If the refrigerator goes out, you get to replace it. I mean, so many things that I've seen, and it's like, what is wrong with this picture?
Right. So you told me about a scenario that I didn't know existed, and that was when you have investors that will buy houses that are for sale and immediately like put a renter in.
Yeah.
And then they either are able to buy it from them eventually, or they're able to just keep renting, whatever. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so, I mean, we started this program back in 2010. I cannot believe it's been that long. But the idea is that you had people in a position who weren't able to buy a house for whatever reason. Credit scores were not where they needed to be, didn't have enough necessary income to show. Maybe they had high credit card debt or student loan debt. Mm-hmm. Any of those scenarios, but they were still employed, having income, needing a place, and willing to pay a price, right? Willing to rent or do whatever. To me, if you get somebody who is interested in renting, are they wanting just to be renters? They don't want any responsibility. They don't want any ownership. That's certainly their option to do, right? But then you have a group of people who may be renters who want to own, mm-hmm. and they want to get to that level. But I just need a couple of years to get everything back on track and make sure. I just need to know what the process is to even get there, right? But in the meantime, I need a place.
Which is kind of like where I was when I did my, it wasn't like my land contract.
Yeah, that's right. So the option is if you have an investor, which I work with investors, and this is a program that they really like, is that if we know that you have people who are like on the wait list for getting a place, right? And these are the criteria, and it's feasible that we can find a house that meets their needs and fills their blanks, right? Checks those off. But it also meets the needs of the investor, meaning that there is some uptick in that if they bought the property or they're holding it, they can now put a renter in there. They have some repairs that maybe need to be done in order for the renter to get in there. But in the instance of we're going to rent it with the option to buy, then that's language that we put in the agreement. And then a portion potentially of like their first year, we're just straight renters. We don't know really what our next move is going to be, but if it's all good and we could buy it, we would love to. And that language is enclosed, which included, a portion of that rent from the first year would be given back to them as potential credit for being able to make their purchase. So if at the end of that first year they qualified for a loan, now they've gotten their credit where it needs to be or the money saved or whatever, yeah, the house works great, we want to do that. Now they haven't just dropped their money down the drain for paying the rent, but they're getting a portion of that back potentially that says it's able to be used for their down payment or part of their closing cost or whatever. So that's a win-win, and people love that. Investors like it because somebody who's just renting, their ability or desire to maintain a property is probably maybe less. In some cases going to be less than somebody who says, hey, this potentially could be my house. I don't want to just go in and not care when I move the chair that it scrapes the floor. Yeah. Or I ding the wall that I don't care. I don't fix it, right? And so the different status of the mindset going into the property, if you're going to own it or want to own it, you're going to take better care of it. But it also, in some cases, we have where, you're handy and you can do some of maybe the minor things, and maybe it needs to be repainted, and maybe I don't like the carpet flooring and I'll put new flooring in there. Well, then we had the next level of deals that we would do where there's some sweat equity from the person also going into the deal. And instead of the investor having to do those repairs and updates maybe before the person comes in, now the person is able to do that on their own over their period of time to their particular needs, right? And their desires, what they like. And now, not only are we talking about potentially a bit of their rent payment coming back for down payment or closing costs, but also the value of that equity could come back. So if they show receipts and they've done work and they put 10 grand into it, maybe that investor is willing to give them that benefit of, hey, if the sale value now is X, we're going to deduct that 10 off of it so you get a lower price point, which is effectively giving them equity in their pocket. Yeah. So there's all kinds of ways that we have worked those scenarios. It's really dependent on the investor, the property, and the person that's coming into it and what they're all trying to do. And me in the middle of it, trying to bring all parties together. And again, those deals only work when it's a win-win all the way around. Yeah. Because if you have an investor who's dogged about this, I'm going to get the highest, I'm going to get the most, and that is not a situation that I'm going to be in the middle of. I may represent the investor, but that's not going to work for that scenario where I'm also bringing potentially the buyer into this equation. You put it on the market, we list it for the high number you want. If it comes, it comes. I'm going to give you the professional advice because you're my client as the investor, but it's going to be one-sided transaction, not necessarily the multiple ways. Yeah. So it's a lot.
Yeah, but it's interesting because I didn't even know that it existed until you told me about it. Yeah. So.
Well, and then you talked about the land contract. That's kind of like the next level in it, is that you legitimately want to make everything official, and you're the seller. I'm going to buy it from you so you can sell it to me on a land contract. That gives me a period of time to do what I need to do. If I fail, then you get it back. And in a land contract, the first 2 years, if you get it back, you don't have to go through court in order to get it back. If I've put more money in it, or I've paid a large down payment, or I've been in it for more than that, then those rules change. Now it becomes a legal proceeding. And so these are the details that
I didn't even know that. And I did a land contract.
Not everybody is aware of. Yeah. And this is one of the first things that I look at if somebody's looking to do a land contract. Well, how much is being asked to come as a down payment? So in one example I had, we were talking about a $100,000 house, but the seller, in order to do it, wanted $25,000. So my information, I didn't represent the seller. I represented the buyer in that deal. And I'm like, here is the situation that they may not be aware of. if you do this, you immediately have put 25% into this property. You are now over the 20% threshold. So it already circumvents the 2-year period that you have where they just get it back. They automatically have to go into a foreclosure process, which then means it's probably an 18-month process to go through the process, right? And while that may benefit my buyer, it doesn't benefit them to put $25,000 out. Again, I don't want people to put more down. I want them to have the reserves.
Yeah.
But if the deal is going to only get made by that, then it may be. But the benefit is to you is that now you're protected because they can't just take it back if you miss a payment.
Gotcha.
Whereas if you're in the first 2 years and you miss a payment, perhaps they had strong language in the lien contract that they just take the home back, and you've lost everything,
Oh, wow.
including the $5,000 that you put down.
Yeah. So it always fascinates me, just the different types of real estate deals that are out there.
There is a ton of them.
Where before I thought oh, you just rent a place, you pay your rent, decide to move out, but you could buy it then, or you could have some language in there that already pushes you towards buying it, or you buy a house and you live in it, or you buy a house and it's an investment property, and then you're on the buyer or on the seller side with the whole scenarios that you've talked about.
And so just like you said, this is the reason why you would want to talk with a realtor, to say, hey, here's my situation, this is what I'm looking at, what could I do, right? But the other part of that, you've done a land contract, you've rented before, you've done all of these things, but there's still little tidbits that we've always find out, and it's oh, dang, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't know it all either.
Yeah.
Every situation, but I know the things to look for, I know the things to protect clients for, and so that's why we do that.
Yeah. Awesome. So our tip to end this episode would be, if you are looking to rent or buy, reach out to a realtor.
Absolutely.
Because if anything else, it gives legitimacy to the properties that you're actually looking at, so you don't get those scams that we talked about at the beginning of this episode.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thanks for joining us today on the Realty Podcast. If you enjoyed the knowledge and entertainment today, please subscribe and share with your friends. We will be embarking on a journey that bridges the gap between realtors and clients, uncovering the heart and tea of real estate.